welcome to the TutorUp podcast. I'm your host, Josh Powers. Usually, our co-founder and CEO, Ray Kapp, is with us, but today we have a special guest, Jeffrey Katz. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time. I guess if you can open us up a little bit and just tell us a little bit about your background and some of your interests and what you're currently doing.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Josh. First of all, it's a pleasure to be part of this podcast and a pleasure to be part of the TutorUp. It's a growing company. I'm looking forward to grow with it. And I appreciate you bringing me in here to talk a little bit. I'm a tutor now. I have a full-time tutoring business, and I'm so glad that again, the TutorUp is a part of that now. I've been tutoring for 16 years. I have just tell a little bit about my background. I have a BA in Applied Mathematics from the Johns Hopkins University. I have an MBA from the Wharton School, and most of my career had been in corporate and financial services. So I always tutored part-time for the last maybe, like I said, 16 years because I enjoyed touching the lives of young people. I just always had something I always enjoyed doing, and I have a good academic background. So through tutoring, I was able to do that. I've done it part-time just for supplemental income and to do it, but never thought of making a full-time thing out of it. During COVID, when I was locked up in the house a lot because I couldn't get out there too much, I started pursuing it full time. I had been doing in-person tutoring for many years, and found online tutoring, and it took off. I tried to do it online, and it worked. I was able to set up a business and tutor with people. So it just really, and I saw how much I enjoyed. Like I said, really touching the lives of young people who really could benefit from what we do, which we'll talk about a little bit, what I do, what we do in the tutoring business. But just to tell a little about what I do as far as tutoring is concerned, I tutor mainly in math courses, math from, let's say, elementary through graduate level, and a lot of standardized testing as well. That includes college entrance exams like the SAT and the GRE, ACT. I do other standardized tests like military entrance exams, nursing entrance exams, GED, pretty much any standardized test that involves math, although I do both the verbal sections as well. So that's what it's really blossomed. When there's an opportunity to hook up with TutorUp, I jump to the opportunity. I see the great things you guys are doing, growing, and with Ray and with you, it just seems like you're a powerhouse of individuals who want something to really happen. You like to have an influence on people as well, and that's where I want to be a part of. So thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. And really, the tutors themselves are what is going to be the backbone of our company. And so, partnering with very talented tutors like you, and that relationship that we're able to build with students is really going to be key. So, I guess if you wouldn't mind telling me a little bit about, so since you decided, I guess, around COVID to really jump ship and to focus more with online tutoring, because I think online school in general with COVID and in the years after has somewhat gotten a bad rap. And so when we're talking with parents and we've mentioned that we're specifically a online tutoring space, one of the first comments that we get is, well, online tutoring would never work, at least for my child. I would love to hear, I guess, a little bit about your background inside of the online tutoring space. How many hours have you done? And is it something that can work for the majority of students?
I think it really can. Again, it's a function of the student, but I've tutored probably close to 10,000 hours since I started tutoring. And I'd say now that I've been doing the online tutoring for the last 5 years, it could be that I'm, probably maybe even by this point as far as what I've done online. And But I'll just give you from the tutor's perspective first about why it makes sense. I mean, from my perspective, I have to admit there is a maybe some selfish motives there. Although I can go from one client to the next, there's no travel time. It's just as far as the tutor's concerned, it works out very good. But then from what I was talking about, how many more people can I touch their life? How many more people can I have an impact on? By not having to travel from session to session, I can work with so many additional students and help that many more people. Now, look, it's Some people get nervous being on camera. I've had students who do that, but usually I'm very if the tutor can be personal and touch, and make the student feel comfortable, and just realize again, just like you and I today are having a conversation, we can just make it into a conversation directed towards helping them. Um, yeah, yeah. In other words, a lot of parents say they do. I'll tell you from why it could be better from the parents' perspective also, and the students' perspective. When I go to visit somebody at a let's say a bookseller place or a coffee shop or something like that, I have to try to bring all my resources with me, it just it just can be a little more inconvenient. Here I'm in my own space, they're in their own space, they're in their comfort space, and the resources all right here at my fingertips. So it just really works out better. I can I have online, you have online whiteboards, online. I have an online tablet, so I can show things on the board. I record the sessions for the student. So you're right. What the benefit is that another benefit is that if we do it live, right? If we do it live, I usually don't make a recording of it, and no matter whether it's live or not, the student usually doesn't absorb everything the first time we're working together, right? So here I say to the student, look, you absorb as much as you can from the session that we're going to do online, and you'll have a video. And then the second round, I want you to review what we did, and with me, my commentary at your own pace. You can stop and start the video. Then the third time, try it yourself. Try it yourself on your own without the video. You can't do that unless I'm going to set up a camera
Yeah.
at the coffee shop, which I don't know if they would appreciate that, or I guess I could do it at their house, but again, much more convenient to just kind of videotape the session and send it to them, so they can have that session as many times as they want. So that's a plus side. But again, there's always going to be people who just don't want to try online. So I accept that as part of the cost of doing business, but it's well worth it. I think that in the long run, more people can benefit because I can be involved with more people and help more people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say from a student side, if I'm working with you and you tell me what you had just said, and with TutorUp in particular, we always send the videos. But with that, how a part of the payment process for our tutors is that they write a quick review to the parents, and they might say, hey, we worked on mixed fractions today. Here's what so and so did. Here's where they seem to do very well, but they struggled with this concept here. I made a note of it. It was minute 15 or whatever that it is. So they have a great opportunity to go back into the session from a parent side and see, okay, Johnny seemed to not be paying attention, or his phone kept going off. Okay, well, I know not to take his phone for next time. But then from the student side as well, like if I'm really trying to get this and we're trying to help students, especially early in the school year, to not procrastinate, to have these sessions ongoing. So let's say it's Monday, Wednesday, or whatever, and you know from your course syllabus at school that your tests are going to be on Friday. Well, if those Monday, Wednesdays are set, it gives you that time. So like, okay, Monday we went over this. We know the test is Friday. Maybe on Tuesday as a part of my study period, I'm going to look over portions of that session again. And so parents might see a certain hourly rate, but really it's an unlimited hourly rate because they can go over that hour as many times as
Right,
they
right.
need.
That's right.
But I remember in school personally, I mean, I would zone out during different portions of the session. And we actually have a video coming out next week talking all about that from a student's perspective. I mean, I think, in an hour period of time, you're lucky to get 5-6 minutes of very focused work. But when students, have poor body language or whatever that it is, things that you as the tutor can read, you can immediately address some of those things. But there's so many times during the school session where there is a pressurized environment to learn this here and now, because next week or next class even the curriculum is going to be moving on. And so I have to understand this now. Where with that session, of course, I still want to understand everything that you're saying, and I want to be able to engage with you and make sure that I am understanding it. But knowing also that there's going to be other resources coming my way, I think would be a game changer of making this a ideal platform. Is if you can take the time necessary during your session to understand it, ask those key questions, but also have that ability to go back. So going back to that example, if you and I are working on Monday, Wednesday, and I go and I had a chance to look over that Monday session, maybe put it at twice speed so I can get through it quicker. And I say, okay, well, there's something that you said at minute 18 that I'm still not understanding, and then bring that forward to that Wednesday session. Then the tutor can say, okay, well, you clearly went back and did your homework. You've even had a chance to do some follow-up questions. Now would be an ideal time for me to go into this. Oh, and look, it goes into what you currently are learning in class.
Right.
Um,
There you go.
Getting students to understand some of those things, I think, would be crucial for them to understand, the here and now, but also the why. Um,
But
with that,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
one other point about that. We both agree though that the tutor is the major player in that interaction. In other words, no matter how efficient or how these additional benefits of the internet, if a tutor is just not going to be dynamic and try to make it's fun and entertaining for the student, it just can't work. And that's why tutoring companies like yourself will want to do what's it called, mock sessions with the student, with the tutor, to see if how they get a feel or how they're going to interact with students. So it's really, let's of course let's upplay the importance of the tutor and making it have. It's a very, I don't know if you call it like a two-dimensional environment you're in, right? Could be that the student just feels more stimulated when a person's next to him, and it just keeps them more alert. Whereas I've had students, very important to set up some of the parameters with the parents and the student. I've had students who turn their cameras off the whole time, and the parent's okay with that. I can't get the parent to tell the student, and that takes away a lot of the potential interaction. It could be maybe they have a disfigurement, or who knows, or they're just not comfortable. I have no idea, but I have some students I've never met. I would not know what they look like if I passed them on the street because they just keep their camera off. I really push against that because it really takes away from the relationship building that's going on there. But yeah, so I just want to make sure we understand that I'm sure we do, that the tutor has to make it a dynamic session. I will just, I'll add some jokes into the session. I might throw some brain teasers in. Hey, let's do a brain teaser at the end of the session. Just something off topic. If we come up with something that what was I looking up the other day that we talk about. Somebody was talking about what'd you do on your vacation. I went on I went to did you go? Went swimming. You went on a slip and slide or something like that. So I said, oh, you know what? I wonder what the longest slip and slide was that ever was made. The Guinness Book. So we looked it up online. To see. It's just that kind of stuff makes it stimulating
Right.
for the student. Just to do something fun, right? The brain teasers that, so yeah, we talk about that. Again, I have to be productive for the parents who are paying for it, but I make sure I am, so they shouldn't worry about that. So, yeah.
Right, for sure. I mean, but I would say that relationship piece is key. Now, of course, you can still have a relationship not knowing what the person looks like, but
Right,
there
right,
is a piece to it where, that human component where if I can tell with what your
right,
facial features, or maybe you're not as engaged because you're looking somewhere else, just like the in-person session, I can pick up on that and just say, hey, I just want to make sure you understood what I just explained. Can you
right,
explain it to me? And they might have no idea what you just said, so you have to go back again. But if their camera's off, you really don't know.
right.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I think that parent piece is of course key, but also, the student has to want to do it. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, for sure.
with any type of in-person tutoring, we'd like to explain it to kids is, your mom and dad are paying for the session, of course, but you're the real client. Like, what are your goals? And the most successful students by far are the ones that they themselves are pursuing tutoring. They want to get there. And so the environment, of course, is going to be key. And so if they can get to a quiet space, it can be a library, it can be their room, whatever that is, I think that's also going to be really beneficial, where for the next 30 minutes or however long the session is, I am your sole focus. We're not
Right,
going to be doing XYZ. Of course, being a virtual session, I can't control what you do. Like, I can't control if you have your phone on you. Of course, I can ask you to put it away. But helping parents understand too is like, this is what would make your child as successful as we can. What can we do to work together? Are you able, through the previous platforms you've used before, have you been able to communicate that to parents? Does that seem to be received well for the most part?
Yeah, and I make sure yes, I talk to the parents first. I ask them that exact question you were mentioning, right? How interested is Johnny in having these tutoring sessions, right? Well,
Sure.
I only had to put Johnny's arm at a 120-degree angle behind his back to get him to come to the session. I used to have to do.
Right.
I thought 90 would work, but I had to get it to 120 to get him to come to the session.
Yeah, yeah.
So those cases are rare. Most of the times, the student there are cases like, but anyway, I find out about that, and yeah, the parents are. If I'm answering your question, the communication with the parents is key. I write the reviews for the sessions. I let them know what's going on. I make sure they're a part of it. I raise issues with them if I'm concerned about something. They raise issues with me. I let them know ahead of time. I'm open to construct. I want constructive criticism. I want to be the best tutor I can be. So please let me
Mm,
know if I use a certain approach with your child that I think is going to work. But hey, you know your child better than me. Please let me know. Please let me know how I can customize what they had. Just an example. I just had a student that has really not been successful with other tutors, and the mother said to me, he's really smart. He can do well, but the tutors are just not. He needs a little bit more structure than the tutors are giving. He needs really step by step to understand how to do, let's say adding fractions, how to find a common denominator, whatever I think we worked on rounding numbers the first session. So how to round numbers. So that's what I did. Once I got that feedback from the parent, I actually on a whiteboard said step 1, step 2. And the report back was he loved me. He never. If Johnny runs upstairs and tells mom, he's a great tutor, then that's what she needed to hear. And that by me getting that feedback, so it is a team effort, and that's what we have to do. We can't just can't try to fit our square peg into a round hole approach with every student. Just not going to work. So that I
right.
pride myself on trying to do that to the best of my ability. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just have to say your background in general is very impressive. And from a student side, if I'm working with you, of course, I might ask you some of those things and be very impressed and be like, okay, well, he very much knows what he's doing. I would I'll be honored to work with you and to learn from you. But I think with the educator side in general, the students need to feel more than anything how much you care. How are you able to, over like the online format, able to generate some of those relationship questions and be able to speak life into their current situation?
I'm pretty. I can be pretty. I don't want to say aggressive, but can be pretty forward about it. If I sense something's going on, then I'm going to try to bring it up again. Try to feel it out first. I even had a father who told me he wanted me to address some of these issues with it. The kid's going through a divorce, and
Mm,
he's been going from one house to another, and there's got a court case, and he knows his son was being affected. And I told him I'm a child of divorce as well. Let me see
mm,
if I can relate to him. And I was able. We would cut out a few minutes from the session, talk. Again, he was very little at the beginning. He was a little closed about it, a little uncomfortable because who am I? He doesn't know me. But once he saw how much I cared and how I had to hey, I've been through that. I know exactly what you're going through. I've been through that myself. He kind of started to relax. And in fact, there was a break of a few weeks with that client because that was when he was switching homes. And he actually had requested the other parent. He wanted to get the tutoring started again. So he went to the parent and
wow.
said, they had to track me down because they had closed this. I don't want to get into it between the
Sure,
parents,
sure. Yeah,
but
yeah.
anyway, they had locked his phone got shut down and everything, so I couldn't reach him really. But they reached out to me and they really wanted to continue. So yeah, so that's if I see a student's interested, not doesn't have to be so heavy all the time. If a student's interested in I always had a lot of them are in sports. They have a lot of sports responsibilities after the school. So these are the kind of things that they feel that hey, this guy is a normal guy. I can talk. He might be 50 years older than me, but I can relate to him. He's interested in what's important to me. Now, I'm not saying I can talk the same language as them all the time. some of my catchphrases are from 50, 60 years ago. So what does that mean? And when I showed them my phone, they said, "Oh, I saw that in a museum once," or something like that, right?
That's funny. Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had that. Oh yeah, that phone you have as a grown adult. Oh yeah, I had that when I was 4 years old.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
So
and
they,
but but from their side, regardless of how old their tutor is,
yeah,
or gender even, or
yeah,
location, and or even background,
yeah,
you tell a student that they can do something, like if they're working on multiplication fact or be reading or whatever, and you immediately say, "Well, you can do this." And sometimes students, especially high schoolers, they get under this influence of, well, what am I ever going to use this? So, big questions we might have tutors ask on some level is, well, tell me about your greatest interest. Like, what's your
yeah,
biggest passion? Because all students have something, and it could be video games, the most common um, career that kids want today is something with YouTube, is a YouTuber or filmographer, whatever. And it's like, okay, well, with filmography, on some level, you're going to have to write scripts, right? You're going to have to edit. You're going to have to deal with timing, with deadlines, and all of these things. So learning organizational skills, learning how to read quickly, how to come up with writing. With anything math related, it's one of these things. It's like, well, eventually you'll have to learn new skills on some level, and maybe today's skill is something with math. And so if they can somehow see the bigger picture, and then they have an experienced tutor believing in them, or with what you were just saying, speaking very specific to what they're going through and being able to relate to it on some level, they can't help but to like it. They can't help but to like working with you. Oh, and by the way, you're an expert in whatever that we're learning about.
yeah,
Or they might come at it from, well, the teacher seems to not like me. And if they have another teacher slash tutor wanting to know more about that, well, maybe I can tell you a little bit more about it from the teacher's like vantage point. Maybe they're stressed out about state scores and they might mention it more, and you might be making you nervous, but that's not their intention, right? And sometimes just hearing it from someone other than mom and dad can be really crucial.
right,
And
sure,
so I
sure.
think that those, relationship pieces, I think are really crucial. For some of the students that you work with, maybe particularly with math, what would you say is maybe one of the leading factors for why they need tutoring?
Well, there's a few issues that it could be. I mean, one I was thinking about a few issues that why I do am brought into the picture. I mean, there could be something as not as basic, but as a medical issue. Let's say they got behind for some reason, they were out, so they need to bring a tutor to catch them up, or maybe they've been pushed too far too fast and they're having trouble keeping up. Right, so just could be the material is just too difficult for them. They weren't focusing for too many years, and then all of a sudden they woke up and said, "Oh, they realized this stuff is important for what I want to accomplish." So there's a lot of different situations where they need a tutor. I find that most of the time it's just I think we all have to realize that every kid is born with different gifts, talents, and skills, and that's why some people are better in the quantitative stuff. Some people are better in the verbal and literary stuff. It's just each kid is different. So, but they all have to take the same kind of courses. It could be just a function. They need to take this a requirement. They got to get through it, and they weren't born with the skills. Now, again, not that anybody can't learn what they need to learn. It's just that they have to be. I have to build their expectations that it's going to be a step by step process, right? We don't want to set the goals too high. We have to just kind of let's not just say I got to go from here to here in one. Oh, I can't. This class is too hard. I can't. I don't understand it. Fine. Let's just catch up one step at a time. Okay. It's a building process. If you have the time, I have the time for you, and we're going to get you built back. But I think the process is. I think that one of the issues is that it's an impatience. I think that's part of
Mm.
that's what's going on today. Distractiveness and impatience, and kids just, I try to find out. They say they don't have time to do their work. I say, well, let me ask you a question. How many hours a day do you spend on your phone? One kid said to me, "This is again. I can't relate this because you know my history. You know that flip phone I have, right?" They say, "Oh, I'm not like I don't spend that much time like my friends. I only spend 4 hours a day on my phone." I just it's unbelievable what they do, and
Right.
it's not only so much I can fight about that, but I just try to, what? Why don't you carve out, a half an hour of that time to work on what we're working on, and you'll see how quickly you can advance. You can refocus your energy towards doing that, but it's a tough world for kids today. They get caught up in the phone and the distractions. It's a tough one. It's hard for me to relate to, but because I'm more mature. I can be much more disciplined. But the young people today, it's very hard for them. So again, I have them for the hour that I want to build them up. And it's for the hour they put their phones away. They're with me for that hour, and we're gonna build them up as much as they can. I reward them if they want to call me between sessions. If they have a quick question, something's holding them up, they could call me. So to prevent if they're that interested in moving forward and something's blocking them, then hey, give me a quick text or a call, and I'll be happy to answer your question, no charge, and I'm happy to do that. So, but yeah,
Wow.
that's so it's medical issues, it's distractiveness. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues from what I see is that I don't know what's the latest. Do they let the kids bring the phones to school now or what? What's the latest on that?
So it does depend on where they live
Uh,
and county policies, but the majority of kids, yes, they can have. It used to be, no cell phones on campus on any type of school grounds, and then it was okay. Well, you can keep them in the hallways, keep them in your lockers or whatnot. And now it's, you can have them. Generally, you can have them on you, but don't have them in person. And then teachers also can have different rules within their classroom. So I know, especially in high school or potentially even middle school, they might have like a wall where students come in, they put their phone away, or they can have it as long as it's not a distraction.
yeah, yeah.
Just in case someone, God forbid, there's a emergency on some level. But yeah, I mean, I think that you're right with the impatience piece. I mean, sometimes parents just don't realize how much is needed on a day-to-day basis to keep up with the traditional standards. And we see it more and more with state testings and the proficiency rates, and especially third and fourth grade,
Uh,
but also. This continues. So middle school and high school, some kids really just take a step back and they're not at grade level, and then that just continues, and all of a sudden they're 6 months behind, and then they're a year behind, and then their reading never goes past maybe sixth grade. And so, with that being said, having parents understand the expectations, I feel, is really key. One of the things that has been implemented over the course of the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, but bigger picture, is that students are tested more than ever before,
yeah, yeah,
state tested, but also national tested. Here's your national percentile. And then they're also tested in various things with reading and math from, well, here's where you are amongst your peers in your school and in the county and then in the state. And then here's national testing too. And we always try to look at everything as positive as we can. So with that, if parents are able to bring that to the tutor, and they say, okay, my son's in fourth grade, but his math computation, math writing is really around second grade level. Well, that is huge. And it helps the tutor to see,
uh,
okay, well, maybe you don't have the multiplication facts that your teacher is expecting you to do. But also, too, maybe your reading isn't quite there. So, and in fourth grade, you're having to combine both of those. You're having to combine reading word problems and applying the math that you're expected to know that you just don't. And so the tutor is able to get pinpoint, okay, well, today, here's what is going to be asking of you. These word problems are mainly going to be, let's say, multiplication. And so if you can understand 8 times 3 is 24, then you'll be able to get some of these. But also at the same time, here's where I would recommend continuing to practice outside of school and maybe even outside of tutoring, are just getting a deck of flashcards. And with technology today, there's so many resources that they can tap into. So for flashcards, for me, when I was growing up, was fantastic. Today, kids can use something called Quizlet, and they can just
oh yeah,
just be repping it out. So with these technology advantages that they have and testing advantages, it takes pressure off of the the guesswork, so to speak, with the tutor. We don't have to say, okay, well, you're in fourth grade and you're not understanding this current subject in school. We now have a whole profile available based on you of what you do and don't understand. And so that can make the tutoring sessions that much more effective. And so I think that that really comes back to that full circle with the parent and the student of like, okay, well, here's where they're at. So here's what it's going to take to probably get them at grade level. So, of course, we want you to do well for the upcoming quiz for tomorrow. But if we're able to see this as a bigger partnership opportunity, I think that of course, helps them to have a roadmap of here's what it's going to take to be a success.
Yeah, yeah. I think what you said about the parents either provided that information to the tutor. Again, I've had parents who just say, "Well, how many sessions are going to take for Johnny to be ready for this to take this standardized test?" I said, I'd love to answer that question, but let me meet you and let me talk to you first about where your son's holding, your daughter's holding, what their background is, what you think they struggle in, what their strengths are, and then we can then plus all that additional information from the testing, we can then put together a picture of what we need to do. So yeah, for sure, the parents would. I think that's hopefully that. I know TutorUp's going to do that. You're going to educate the parents ahead of time about
Right.
they're a partner in the whole process as well, right? So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. And, unfortunately, there is no magic eight ball, right? I mean,
right.
with curriculum, and I think where that mindset comes from a parent side is with a curriculum through the state, let's say, with math, is you have a certain time period to learn, let's say, this concept in math and with this multiplication or whatever that it is, and then you're going to move on. And so with that, not every kid can hit that. Other kids can understand those concepts much faster. And so I think that's where that mindset comes in, is like, well, okay, well, they're going to be given this period of time. Can we replicate that? How many sessions is going to be needed? And your answer is perfect because it puts that individuality into it, where maybe they can understand it. Maybe because it's a one-on-one and they're not one of 20 students. I can pick apart how they're understanding it, or maybe give them some quick tips and tricks that they can pick it up much faster. Other times there's that individual opponent of they just don't understand it, or maybe they don't have the consistency outside of the tutoring sessions. And so with that, maybe it'll take more time, and realizing that that's okay too. It just means that you need to have detailed structures and potentially some discipline to make sure that they're hitting that, so that they can gain advantage, and that they can gain on the school curriculum.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, well, excellent. And so, with what your background also works with is you work with students that are post high school. And one of the headlines, we always like to have a headline and a quote for all of these podcasts. And so we were looking at some headlines amongst different regions of the United States for the high school class of 2025. So students who are now their first couple of months of post high school. And about 62% of them, we're looking at a couple of different regions. And the regions we looked at, 62.8% of recent high school seniors enrolled in college. With that, 45% enrolled in a four-year university, 17% went into some type of two-year, so associate or at community college. So one thing that we are talking about is that where there's not a one-size-fits-all, where, okay, do A, B, and C, and then you'll be ready for college. Maybe from a financial side, it doesn't make sense for you to go to college right now. Maybe it makes sense to go to community college, or to maybe work for a little bit, take some time off, gain some skills so that when you do go to college, you're academically ready. And so getting students to understand that not everyone should go to college, and that's okay. It doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that you can't or that you eventually won't go. But do you ever have those conversations with students? And what has been your experience with some type of post-high school opportunities for students that maybe isn't college?
Yeah, so I wonder if those numbers going up or down. I wonder if you know that the 62% who are going to college. You think that's trending upward or downward? Probably is trending down, right? Probably less are going to college. You think, or It's hard
Yeah,
to tell,
so
right?
I'm not 100% sure with
Yeah,
this particular study, but
yeah,
I would say more students are not going to
yeah,
college, or are taking opportunities. So in the state of Tennessee, for example, we have what's called the Tennessee Hope and the Tennessee Promise. And so students can go to community college for free, and they can at least get their associates or get their feet wet with academia and then maybe transition to a 4-year school. But I
yeah,
would say overall, over the course of maybe a 5-year study, I would say the numbers are going down.
yeah, yeah. I think it's such an important thing to first and to really do a self-assessment as even a young person with outside help if necessary to really know what their strengths are because the studies show that if we apply our strengths we're going to be more successful whatever those strengths are. So therefore we both agree, and unfortunately it's just starting to take hold. I think that college is just not for everybody, right? It's not based on their how they fared in an academic environment through through K through 12. It just we see that it's not for everybody. I've met many students who the parents are pushing them to go a certain direction, and I do have to it's a very delicate subject to bring up with a parent, but if the child is just not it just we discuss different options for the child. Let's just talk about different scenarios. Let's say he doesn't get the score he needs for this test. What other options are available to him? He certainly can take the test again, but let's say it doesn't work. I certainly hope it does, and I'm there to help support him if we only still get him there. But if it doesn't, what other options do we have for this? So I'll have this conversation sometimes with parents. But like I was telling you originally, I do a ton of military testing. I have tons of students who their parents know they're not. They want their child to go into the military. Or the child has always wanted to go into the military. And they can get their education free through the military. So sometimes that's the reason why they do it, to get it for free. But sometimes they're enlisting. They're not going as an officer track, which is where you'll do the college track. Sometimes they just want to enlist, go and get the discipline and the security and the structure of being in that kind of environment, which is what they need at their age and based on their background. So I'm so excited to be a part of. I feel like this is my contribution to the United States military by helping these young people get into the military. They have to take a certain test. They have to show a certain proficiency in English, math, and 2 English subjects and 2 math subjects. And then they do get tested on other sections as well, like automotive, mechanical, electrical. So that helps them get placed in other kinds of positions in the military they might want. But the key is they have to pass those main 4 sections to even get in. So I love helping with that. I have students who become electricians, who want to become pipe fitters, who want to become go into the nursing track. So that there's such a need for that. So there's plenty of tutoring out there that can be helpful for them as well. I just share one anecdote. I remember when I was in college, I went to graduate school. I got my MBA, and I was at the University of Pennsylvania. There was a lot of undergraduates, and even at that age, I was still feeling out. I had done 4 years of undergraduate. Now it was 2 years. I was still feeling out. Exactly where I wanted to head up. But I see these kids come in at 17 years old. They know exactly what they want to do, and they're on a certain track. And when you talk to them, it's really, well, that's what my dad's doing, or that's what my mom's doing. So that's what I think I want to do. I think I want to do the same thing. And you see some of these people would change careers midway, and they just didn't find their niche. So I think it's really important if a kid can, through counseling and through mentoring and counseling, can really assess them. So there's absolutely who's going to work on our car? Who's going to fix our HVAC if we don't? Who's going to do these things if nobody does these things? Who's going to defend our country if we don't have these people?
Yeah.
They're just as it's just as important. I think college it's become less important, and we just everything. I just want to make sure we look at it all on the same level. Unfortunately, going to vocational or trade schools, there's always people have had looked down on it for some reason. So it's totally a wrong thing to do. It's totally a wrong thing to do. People who are that's their strength, that's the trade they should go into, and they're needed in society just as much as the person who goes to regular academia. So I'm thrilled to be a part of that help these individuals do that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also just developing those life skills. You were talking about the military. There's some testing that you're going to have with math, something that they on site are going to not want you to use calculators for. And I would say also too is with everybody, especially high school seniors, is helping them to see life skills. Okay, so you're 18 years old, regardless of if you go to college or not. There's gonna be certain things that is going to be expected of you just from a growing up standpoint of, okay, balancing a checkbook. How do I do that? How do I look at, well, taxes? And a lot of those practical skills are not learned in school. And so that kind of comes back to with what you were potentially doing on some level of their, post high school opportunities for education to help them in their next step in their career, whatever that is, but also that general studies component. Because I mean, I would say those people who know exactly what they're wanting to do, unless you feel called from a young age, odds are that that's going to change, and that's okay. I always love the quote of, I think 10, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, what people are going to be doing, the job hasn't even been invented yet. And we know that that's true, just with history and job markets and economics. And so, being able to learn new skills and realizing how important that is, but also, creating goals for yourself of continuing to improve on some level.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for
I think that's, a helpful mindset to create lifelong learners.
Now, Josh, I just want you to know something. People make fun of me with my phone, but I don't know. You mentioned balancing a checkbook. I don't know if young people know what that means either, right? You may be
Sure.
dating yourself there.
Yeah, or balancing a app, I should say.
They just take don't they just take their plastic? Everything's plastic today, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay,
Uh, well, great. Well, the one quote that I wanted to end on
sure,
is
sure.
as we really wrap up here is, I think speaking life into kids. I think about it from a student side of when I was a kid, when an older teacher, tutor, mentor spoke life into me, no matter what that is, even if my dream at the time was ridiculous, just how much confidence that gave me on some small level, at least gave me the confidence to pursue it the next day. And so the quote is from Henry Ford, and it's one of my favorites. It's, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Um, do you have a quote like that, or a motto that you live by?
I mean, that I understand why you've chosen that as your favorite one. Let me just, as a one you like a lot, let me just comment on that for a second,
Yeah.
because it's true. I mean, a tutor is having a major impact on the child's life, getting them to a next stage, which is what they're facing at that point. And you're right. I usually, in every review I write, when I write to the student a summary for the session, I'll write, and I'm confident that with a consistent and disciplined review and practice between sessions, that Johnny can will achieve the goals he has set for himself. So, in other words, what I'm saying is that you can do this. And I always tend to say, and I'm rooting for. I don't like saying, and I'm rooting for you, or something like that. In other words, to let them know that, you know, as daunting as the task may seem, some people it's going to be very easy to make the next step. But based on the different levels in the same class, that it may seem daunting now, but if you have you have the enthusiasm, you have the work ethic, and there's nothing, there's no reason why you can't make it in smaller steps. There's no reason why you can't move to the next step. Now, again, not everybody's going to do everything, but not all doors are open to everybody because of the gifts they've been born with, right? But still, if a person is being reasonable about what they want to do, then there should be no reason why through their own efforts and through some mentoring and guides, they should be able to develop a track that should get them there. So, yeah, I mean, that's I'm going to use that one. Instead of me asking if I have one, I'm going to use yours. I like the one
All
you
right.
had. So, thank you. Yeah. I know I
Yeah,
look.
well, thank you so much.
I did not know Henry Ford personally, so I'm just letting you know. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think of even him. I mean, just with where we were in technology, if we were to talk about anything that we have on the road today, And if he were to have dreamed of it, I mean, people, there's no way. I mean, there's the foresight wouldn't have been there. So the only way we are here is at some point someone believed in something that wasn't there yet, and Henry Ford was absolutely one of them. And I just think about that with young people is, in 100 years time, I think we're going to be having that same conversation. We're going to look back at this point in history and just say, if they only knew what we would be capable of now. And that only comes back to you on an individual level. If you think you can do something, if you can map out how to get you there, and you're dedicated to it, regardless of if you hit your goal or not, you're going to be in a much better position than if you didn't have that goal, or if you didn't have that planning period of sitting out short-term and long-term goals. I mean, I like to think of tutoring in a way as like golf. It's okay, well, you have your long driver. Well, that's where you want to be. Like that's your ultimate place. But then in order to get there, you're gonna have to use irons, you're gonna have to putt. Your irons will be, okay, well, what's my goal for this week? My putt is what's my goal for right now? And so in order to get there, you have to ultimately believe that you can. And so, I love that your heart is for these kids. And it's such a blessing for them because of your background and your patience, and because you worked with so many students, that level of experience is a huge value for them, whether they know it or not. And we are just very blown away that you would want to work for us. So we very much appreciate you. And as we close, is there anything else that you would want to say?
I just wanted to reiterate again what I said at the beginning of the session, that you guys are involved in a lot of exciting things, a lot of exciting growth, and it's full speed ahead, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. And I look forward to making a contribution to TutorUp and being a part of the crew and part of the journey with you. So thank you so much, and you're doing good things. Keep it up.
Well, you are very welcome. Well, Jeffrey, it's been a pleasure to have you on this podcast. Next week, we are going to be hosting another teacher named Haley Powers. She works in the inner city, Cincinnati, and we are going to have a YouTube video that's going to come out next week, all about the 3-week check-in period. So everyone in the country is currently in school, and that 3-week check-in period, you're starting to get grades coming out. So this would be a ideal time to sit down with your student and start to talk about what's working, what's not working, and could potential tutoring options help you. Jeffrey, thank you again for your time. It is a pleasure having you. And for everyone else, we will see you very soon. Please feel free to contact us at www.tutorup.com, or you can email me personally at josh@tutorup.com. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Josh. Take care.